What's up, everyone? This is your friendly neighborhood guitar slinger, Ernesto Fuentes, here, back with a very special video for you guys because a very special episode of Meet My Gear, I should say. And why is it very special, you ask? Well, because I'm not only going to introduce you to one guitar, I'm going to introduce you to two guitars. So, this is, of course, Scarlet. She's an Epiphone G400, which is essentially just Epiphone's, version of an SG. As you can see, it's kind of modeled and looks a lot like an SG. Uh, Now, a little bit of history here about the Epiphone guitar company. Now, Epiphone was actually founded in 1873, I believe, in Smyrna, in the Ottoman Empire, which is now present-day Turkey, by Anastasios Stathopoulos. If hopefully I'm not butchering his name. Uh, Now he named the guitar company partially after his son, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. And originally they made, very much like Gibson did not too long after them. They built mostly folk instruments, like your little mandolins and things of that sort. And they later started building electric guitars, the more famous ones being stuff like the guitars like the Casino and the Sheraton and a bunch of others. And then they're bought out by the Gibson company in 1957, and now they're essentially Gibson's little brother brand. Now, one such model that was made very popular is, of course, this G400 here, as well as this other guitar, which I'm gonna be bringing out fairly shortly. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of info about the G400. Now, very much like the SG, the G400 is just one straight slab of mahogany on a very thin body, as you can see. It's very thin, really lightweight, easy to play. Now, of course, as you know, an SG stands for, I believe, solid guitar, which is the complete opposite of, what the Les Paul was, because this is one just solid piece of wood, like one solid bit, mahogany body, mahogany neck. And as you can see, the neck is actually not too thick. It's not like a baseball bat, but it's actually not paper thin either, like an Ibanez. But it's just right, which is just great if if you want to play your little licks and all that other stuff, and just do some solos and play some rhythm and all that other stuff. Um, of course, it's got a rosewood fingerboard. Just your standard. You know, just your standard rosewood fingerboard. It's not very special yet at the same time. It kind of is. It's got four knobs, two volume, two tones, one for, two for each of these pickups, which I believe are just your stock Gibson shop pickups. I believe they might be the 490s. I don't remember. I can't remember for the life of me. Stop tail bridge, tom and a rail. It's a pretty similar specs to a Les Paul, or an SG, I should say. Now, some history about the SG model. Originally, if you look at old SGs, and we're talking like the 1960s SGs, they were actually, funny enough, called Les Pauls, and that's because the Gibson company wanted to create a brand new instrument using Les Paul's name. However, Les Paul actually hated the instrument. He hated the guitar. He hated the way it looked, mostly because, number one, it just didn't feel right to him. But the other main reason, and this is according to what I remember reading about, is that Les Paul was never contacted by Gibson. So there was just a bit of bad blood between the two of them, and they just stopped talking, and they, of course, had to rename their model to just SG, or solid guitar. So this is the this is of course the G400. Now, Epiphone, of course, makes more affordable versions of Gibson models, and a lot of people would actually consider them to be, the reason why I say they call it, a lot of people call it Gibson's little brother brand is because this is essentially like more affordable versions. These aren't, your custom shop guitars that you would get from Nashville. These are, of course, made in like, Indonesia, China, and all that other, and all these other countries. But if I can be frank, Epiphones are actually way more than Gibson's little brother brand. In fact, ironically enough, the Epiphone company is actually much older than Gibson by a couple years. So technically, you could say Epiphone is Gibson's big brother. Although, Epiphone is actually just part of Gibson. Now, as recent as last month at the Winter NAMM show, which, by the way, I highly recommend you guys check it out. Any musician out there, definitely check out, the NAMM shows that come on twice a year. And especially check out Winter NAMM 2020 because Epiphone actually revealed that they will, like a lot of the newer Epiphones that just came out are no longer using this kind of headstock. This is essentially the old Epiphone headstock. So essentially, the newer Epiphone models are not gonna use this headstock. Instead, they're going back to old. They're going old school, and we're talking Kalamazoo old school. That's right. Epiphone is essentially remaking, or I should say, or actually, no, correction. They're giving their guitars the old Kalamazoo headstock. So it's gonna look it's almost gonna look like the old Kalamazoo Gibsons, which is actually super cool of them to do because nowadays, in fact, the writing as you saw on the headstock is not even gonna look the same on these. It's actually gonna look very similar to Gibson, and that's because Gibson is essentially trying to bring Epiphone into the family, essentially saying, Epiphone is now fully a part of Gibson. So, which is, in all honesty, despite my opinion on Gibson, which I do not want to get into because I know there are a lot of purists out there, but I have my opinions on Gibson, and it's kind of like a love hate relationship with them. They make good guitars, although a lot of the decisions they make I find pretty questionable, especially when it comes to their product. But that's a topic for another time. So I'm gonna give you guys a little demo on Scarlet here, and of course I, named her Scarlet after the player piece from the board game Clue. For those who haven't played Clue, Miss Scarlet is essentially, your beautiful, gorgeous, voluptuous lady in red. You know, beautiful woman in a red dress. So, I'm going to give you guys a little demo on Scarlet here. We're going to, same rules apply. And I'll bring the other guitar in a minute. So, I'm going to give you guys a demo on the clean tone right now. So let's just start right here. And in case you're wondering, this guitar is actually tuned to drop D flat. So if it sounds out of tune or if it doesn't sound standard, now you know why. So here goes. On the bridge pickup. Sorry. Alright, now on the middle position, which is essentially the, I mean, you can't see them because of the covers, but the top coil and the top coil on the bridge, bottom coil of the neck. Here goes. All right, time for the bridge. Alright, now we're going to add a little extra distortion. I'm going to set it to the crunch channel. Now this is going to be on the bridge position. Alright, middle position. Now we're gonna kick it on the neck position. So here goes. Now it's time for the fun part, everyone. Overdrive. Here goes. Middle position. So, so my opinion on the G400. Let's see. For all I'm gonna say is, for those of you who are fans of not only blues, hard rock, and even some metal, this is definitely a good guitar to go with. They're very inexpensive. I think I bought this one a while back at Guitar Center for, I think it might have been 300. Like, I think I might have dropped like 300 on this guitar, and it's a great guitar. I mean, it's definitely great if you're, either a beginner or intermediate player, or if you're just a guitarist on a budget, and you're looking for a guitar that not only looks pretty cool, as you can see. I mean, this thing, I'm not gonna lie, it actually looks pretty cool. And funny enough, one of my earlier guitar heroes starting out was actually Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, and I remember him playing an SG. And there was a bunch of people that played SGs that I, was very fond of, and I always thought the guitar looked really cool. I mean, mostly because back when I was, 17, I was a huge metalhead, and I always thought, this guitar looked kind of, pretty kind of menacing, because it kind of looked like it got horns and all that, and yet at the same time, it's not overly pointy. And when I finally got one, or the cheaper version of an SG being the G400, I fell in love with it immediately because it felt great. It's really lightweight. It's not gonna murder your back. The neck isn't exactly baseball bat thick, but it's not paper thin. And it feels great. Playing. You could play solos. You can track rhythm on this thing, so it's definitely a guitar I recommend. At least just have one in your arsenal, and it's definitely a great go-to guitar, for that sort of thing. Now, as promised, here's my other guitar. Now, let me just grab her real quick. And this is a guitar you may have seen before a few times. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Phoenix. Now, I named her Phoenix because, and I'm going to get kind of deep here real quick. Because there was a point in my life where it was just, pretty dark, kind of bleak, and originally I named this guitar Colibri, which is Spanish for hummingbird, mostly because this is a Epiphone hummingbird. Now, I mean, it's a pretty sweet looking dreadnought shaped guitar, and dreadnought, of course, being named after the biggest ship in a naval fleet. I think it might be the biggest ship. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a hummingbird. It's called a hummingbird because of the design on the pickguard, as you can see. If you look closely, it's a hummingbird. Now, I personally love the color on this, mostly because I'm a huge Sunburst fan, and this guitar's got a mahogany back and a maple, mahogany back and sides, and it's got a spruce top, which is just typical of your typical. Or I mean, it's just it's just typically how a lot of dreadnoughts are, should I say, acoustics are built. Uh, I think it might be a mahogany neck and a rosewood fingerboard, and some pretty sweet looking. I think these might be pearloid inlays. Yeah, they're pearloid inlays, and the pickup no, this is a pickup I actually installed. I think it's the Duncan Performer Maverick, which I personally haven't really tried out on an amplifier, but I mean, I put it in because there was a point where I was considering playing live, playing some like acoustic shows live, and I thought I needed to have something to tune my acoustic to. That never came into fruition. But the good thing is I can actually tune my acoustic easily, thanks to this cable that actually comes with the pickup. Now, have been playing this acoustic quite a bit, and I mean, it's just really easy for me to play. It's not, the neck just feels great, and I mean, of course, you've seen it from a lot of my acoustic videos. So I mean, I'm playing this unplugged. So here's a little something for you guys. And I believe this is actually tuned to standard, but here goes. All right, so yeah, you can just say the reason why I renamed this guitar Phoenix, as I was going through this dark point in my life. You know, it was kind of dark and bleak, yet I was also kind of going through a bit of writer's block. Yeah, it was, I mean, for those of you who write and stuff, let me tell you, speaking from experience, writer's block sucks epically, but this guitar practically saved me, and it kind of just, revitalized me, and it rejuvenated me, and it just gave me new life, which is why I renamed this guitar Phoenix. So after the mythical Firebird that dies and is immediately reborn from its ashes. So regarding the Hummingbird, this particular acoustic, it's also another one I recommend from Epiphone. I think nowadays they're making the Hummingbird Pro, and I think they're doing like a single cut version of it for those of you who actually want to get to those high notes, because I mean it's really difficult to get to these high notes. This is just more of like a rhythm guitar, but it plays great, very easy to play, definitely something I recommend playing. So yeah, there goes, man. I mean, and this has been another episode of Meet My Gear. Let me put this down. So this has been another episode of Meet My Gear, featuring two of my Epiphone guitars. So for those of you who haven't done so, please give a like and subscribe to this video. Share it with your friends. You know, for those of you who want to, learn more about gear and anything and all that other stuff, definitely hit subscribe and also hit that notification bell. Until then, this has been your friendly neighborhood guitar slinger, Ernesto Fuentes, and I am signing off. All right, Scarlet, take us away, baby. Stay awesome, everyone. Cheers.